Hello, welcome to episode 6 of FloRugby's The Miss Pass. I'm here with everyone's favourite rugby pundit, Alex Goff.
Hey!
And in the corner, Austin Elite's newest signing, Michael Kramer.
Yeah, I'll be out there for sure.
Looking good in
Finally
that
got the call-up, eh?
Yeah.
I did realise that they needed another fly half, so, you know, you fit in.
The best in the biz right here.
So we got a good show for you today. I'm finally back from being in the UK.
That's good. How was England?
Very cold and very rainy.
That would be the expectation.
It was actually the most rain I've ever seen in my life in the north of England. And then I come back and it's 30 plus degrees C, 82 degrees-ish outside, so it's
well, you looked
shock.
kind of sad, you know, on the video at one point, just sort of like huddling there in your coat.
I had my nice little cup of tea. Yeah. No, it was great. It was good fun. It was good being back there and saw lots of rugby as well, which we can we definitely talk about a little bit. But this week's been interesting, right? We've had lots of stuff finished. The Autumn Internationals just finished. Rugby League World Cups finished. We had some college action as well.
Yeah, some of that finishing up too, as we get ready for winter break and playoff stuff. That's, you know, it all sort of climaxes right around now.
Yeah, get ready for the holiday period. So, Autumn Internationals. I got to England Samoa.
Nice.
Yeah, get to Twickenham. It was freezing cold. I actually, halfway through the game, went and bought a hat and some gloves from the concession stand.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was that cold.
It's like, you know, 50 quid right there.
Actually, it wasn't too bad. It was buy one, get one free.
Oh, wow.
They obviously knew it was going to happen.
That's good.
I had to get it. So my wife was with me, and obviously she was freezing. But it was interesting. So England, like the score flattered England. They got 3 out of 3 in the Autumn Internationals. Obviously they beat Australia, but they never really started firing. And I was pretty disappointed with the Samoa game. It's one of those games, you know, it could be a bit of a flop. They scored straight away, and I thought it's just going to be a runaway. And actually thought, I hope Samoa don't just, you know, fall apart and it's 100 plus.
Right.
But instead, it just was kind of back and forth. England didn't really impress. Samoa played okay at times, and then in the end, like England sort of got a couple of late tries to make it a decent scoreline, which is like 40 something.
48-14.
48-14. But the biggest disappointment for me was just Twickenham.
Really?
It's just like Twickenham's so up and down. The Australia game apparently had an awesome atmosphere. Yeah. This was just really, really flat the whole time.
Is there like a saturation at this point of international games a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they still sell out. It's you know, it's an interesting one. You've got 80,000 plus people right in a stadium. And Twickenham's always been like this. Like, there's a lot of criticism, and in fact, Clive Woodward came out and said this recently about people are so concerned about just getting a beer rather than watching the rugby at Twickenham. Yeah. Everyone's up and down out the seats constantly to go and get another beer, and they're like £7 a bear as well.
Yeah, and I mean it's over in an hour 45, and you know how many people are how many times or how many minutes is everyone sitting in that seat watching the game?
Right. Yeah, and so contrast that with the next day I got to go see Saracens next to play.
Okay, interesting.
Top of the table clash. Saracens missing a load of players because they play for England. This is another one of the challenges where we've talked about that before, where any team has players from national outfits in the squad. Saracens are missing a couple, Exeter only missing 1 or 2, but that 10,000 people packed stadium, that was brilliant.
It's fun.
It was really fun. The atmosphere was really pumping. So club rugby in the UK, I think, is in a good spot.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's just, I remember growing up in England in the 70s, where when there was an autumn international, there were like 2 teams touring. And one of them might be Japan, so that was just a novelty thing, and the other one would be New Zealand. So New Zealand played Ireland. That's really the only game going on, and everybody's like focused on it. I think we wanted more. Everybody wanted more, but you get so many at some point. It's like, even if you go to the game, it's like, ho-hum, Samoa, and didn't really get to see them play the All Blacks or whatever. And
yeah.
I wonder. I don't know.
Well, Japan drew with France.
Japan's just totally, you know, they don't need Eddie Jones anymore. No. They still got it.
I think if you like Japan, if you look at the US and where US is trying to get, the model is to follow is Japan, because look at them now. They've got a World Cup. Their team is playing well. Obviously, they beat South Africa in the 2015 World Cup, and that kind of changed everything. But it all came from having a great coach as well, right? So, which we now know Eddie Jones is.
And a halfway decent professional league, which is sponsored by major corporations, their corporate teams,
who are now, you know, Super Rugby teams. So, and Dan Carter's just said he's going to Japan next season.
Money's good. It's a little bit more relaxed.
Well, it's a bit like the MLS, isn't it, for
sure.
soccer in the US? Like all the players go and retire and earn a load of money. Now all the players in rugby going to Japan.
Yeah.
So
Japan, kind of a win. I mean, they tied, but kind of a win for the fall. I was just wondering who we thought won the fall internationals.
Scotland.
Scotland destroying Australia, and I guess Australia is a big loser overall.
Yeah.
Not very good results, and I mean Wales. Wales is funny because they just squeaked by Georgia, and then they go and beat South Africa in a wild game this past weekend. So
South Africa's so up and down, aren't they?
Yeah,
I mean, New Zealand did what was expected,
fine.
really.
Yeah.
But I think the Northern Hemisphere came out pretty well in general. But I was also pretty impressed with the US and Georgia. So Georgia, who've been pipped as like the best tier 2 nation, they're going to join the Six Nations, everything. And the US, they lost by a point. And apparently, I didn't see all the game, but you saying there's a lot of kicking that probably shouldn't have happened.
They could have won it. I guess it comes down to they could have won it. I felt that they kicked a little bit too much. And I mentioned, we've been talking about rugby league, and they went through 6 phases and then kicked it for no real reason. Somehow got the ball back and went through another 6 phases and then kicked it again, lost the ball. But when they kept it, they scored that final try. It was like 9-10 phases that they worked their way through because they're faster than Georgia. So they just have to keep that working. I liked what they were able to do in a lot of ways. And I guess we'll take that as a moral victory, right?
So Georgia's scrum's immense, right? It's like one of the best scrums in there. Do you think Oklahoma University scrum could stand up to Georgia?
I would love to see it, just to see what they would learn from it. But man, if you saw the Baylor Oklahoma game, Oklahoma just owned the Baylor scrum, and Baylor won the game, and Bears played well. But man, they just steamrolled over them
and got 0 penalties.
No
from
penalties.
It. Yeah, which I don't know how they didn't get any penalties. But anyway, we could get onto the college stuff in a little bit. But yeah, international stuff's over. I think Northern Hemisphere did pretty well. USA held their own. It's not looking too bad.
Ireland and Scotland up in the rankings.
And Scotland up in the. I mean, Scotland now. Scotland are looking good.
Wow.
But other international rugby, the Sevens, from a US perspective, probably not as.
Okay. Well, all right.
Positive.
Dubai, last couple of years aside, Dubai is usually very, very difficult for the USA because it is exactly 12 hours difference from their training spot to Dubai. I've been to Dubai once, and I was living in the Pacific time zone at the time. It's so hard. I mean, I was just working, and I would just fall asleep, spontaneously fall asleep. Because
you don't do that now?
Yeah, sounds like a
that's
normal
true. I am
day.
doing it now. I'm ready for a nap right now. But it is really, really difficult. And they did look tired. Perry Baker got a concussion in the first half of the game. He's out. He's gone home.
That's it. Well, he's won World Player of the Year now. That's it. Why play anymore?
That's right.
Sit it out.
At the top. But he got dinged pretty badly. And they took care of him. They did exactly the right thing. They didn't try to put him back in, all that stuff. But I think it did hurt them. And I don't know. I mean, Michael, you were talking to me about it, and you were a little bit.
I don't know. I was
up in arms.
Looking at the results, and I was like, cover your ears right now if you're sensitive to language. But what the fuck happened? I was expecting them to do a lot better than that, and I think a lot of people were. But it is the first stop, like you said. It was a 12-hour trip for them. Less going to Cape Town now. I expect them to improve for sure. Yeah. I mean, they were talking about getting a top 3 spot. Right.
That's what I love about Sevens as well. Like Sevens. It changes so much, whereas 15s it's so hard if the top teams are always there and thereabouts, right. And like Sevens, like Kenya sometimes wins a stop, and then USA will win, and then someone else will win, and I love that. But the women did really well, finalists.
That was odd because they really didn't look all that great in the first day, and they had to keep close-ish to New Zealand. Right. If they lost by more than 34 to New Zealand on the final game of day 1, they wouldn't make the quarterfinals, and they lost by 31. I mean, they got crushed. And I wrote, well, they're going to get crushed again because they're playing New Zealand the first game in the quarterfinals, and it's totally different. Do you have a video, Michael, on that?
We have the replay of that
how
last
this
try
ends. There. So there it is. They're losing. Time's up, right? And USA
this is a
gets, come on
quarterfinal,
video,
right?
This is the quarterfinal, but this is against New Zealand.
Got a little technical issue here.
And it's just a little bit slow.
Here it goes.
Here we go. And then the dummy, and then straight up the middle. Very good vision there because there's no sweeper. And ball game. You know, just like that. Pretty great. So, you know, look at that smile. That's pretty awesome to see.
It doesn't surprise. And like, so I watched the final against Australia, and Australia ran away with it in the end. You know, like they were really good.
Yeah.
Because Australia's like USA have got, you know, big powerful runners, right? But they're not that quick, and they tried to get around the outside sometimes, but they got closed down. Australia just didn't give an inch, and Australia just more skillful and faster. But I was watching at the start of the game the anthems.
Yeah.
They were so passionate. It was good to see.
That's good. Well, they didn't expect to be there, and suddenly
no,
they're there
exactly.
and thinking, "Wow,
exactly."
we're here.
Yeah, they were like, there was tears rolling down their faces and everything. I mean,
Nice.
I know Americans are pretty, you know, patriotic anyway.
Damn right.
But that's also good about rugby as well. Like, you know, this is what we always criticize the soccer players for, is that they don't care. They don't even know the words to the anthems.
Right.
Whereas these guys are belting them out, tears pouring down their faces like it's a World Cup final.
Do we have that? Do we have that video? Yeah, we do. Look at this.
yeah.
There's Ryan Carlisle. I think that's Nicole Heverland at West Point, the captain. Yeah, they are.
Great shot of the flag.
Yeah, and really it means a lot to be able to and look how they're smiling while they're singing. You got it. You pegged it perfectly.
I love this at the end. Like, it just gets like zooms in and it's just like tears pouring down her face. But no, it doesn't surprise me that they managed to beat New Zealand with that kind of passion, right?
Oh, for sure. Also, the women are not afraid to sing, whereas the men are often afraid to sing.
It's because we've got bad voices.
But just belt it out. Just belt it out. But usually for the women's team, they get one or two good singers to lead everybody.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you have to start picking a rugby team based on, like, you get one good singer to just hit the notes and everyone follows.
Rugby players are normally actually not bad singers. Like, the amount of singing that obviously people have done on rugby buses and things, there's always a couple that are very good. In fact, that makes me laugh because I was at Twickenham. I was actually really impressed by the anthem there. I mean, you've got 80,000 people singing it. But it was funny because I was belting it out, and my wife, who's from Dallas, was just like, just amazed by all these English people actually singing.
That's good.
So it was good. Anyway, so that was Dubai Sevens. So on to Cape Town. See what happens next.
They can only go up for the USA.
I imagine Mike Friday will be putting them through the yakka yard.
Well, I think he's got to bump up their emotional tank a little bit too. I think they were getting down on themselves and doing dumb things. So I think, sometimes it's like, they probably will, but I'll start with this little coddling moment of, you're not as bad as those games are.
Actually, talking about, so Perry Baker World Rugby awards, I suppose, in Monaco, which apparently, it sounded like it was amazing.
Yeah.
In like amazing hotel. And it's first year they've like really blown out, and the Egg Chasers, who podcast in the UK, were there, and they just said it was incredible. And so it was. I was listening to Perry Baker on the like an interview with the Egg Chasers, and he was talking about Mike Friday and stuff like that. And he was like, obviously has a really good relationship with Mike Friday, because he was even in the interview they're like talking about bantering back and forth, and Mike Friday was telling him what to wear and all this kind of stuff. So they've obviously got a great relationship with him. That's good. I mean, it's. I don't know. Did he wear what Mike Friday told him? He was wearing like a check suit and everything. It was interesting. It was pretty stylish. I think that was his first big moment. You can do those post-game interviews even in front of thousands of fans. It's not the same thing as going up there on a podium and then saying, getting an award or saying something that you're now representing. We talked about it last week, that it was representing all of Tier 2 rugby, the only Tier 2 person to get a World Rugby Award. That's pretty interesting. So it's like that's on his shoulders too. I think he recognizes that too. He's not. That's interesting. And Perry Baker was also saying in his interview that they were talking about how does the US grow in rugby terms, and he said it's all about the youth. So he's talking about, like Dan Payne was talking about it as well. And when I was over in the UK, I took my nephew to a local rugby club where he started training. He's 5 years old. So he started. Now, watching, like, kids at 5 years old, they don't really play rugby, they just run around in circles. Right. At one point, the game was chase the coach, which, which looked fun.
I'd like that game. That's a good game.
Exactly. But point being is that there was, on a Sunday morning, there must have been 60, 70, 80 kids down, probably more, down at this rugby club. It's a fairly well-known rugby club, but it's not a big one. And that just shows you, that's what we've got to get to in the US as well. We've got to get every Sunday, get all these kids down, playing from 5 years old, so they develop these skills, rather than just, becoming like better and better athletes. Which is interesting as well, because we were talking to the Austin Elite guys recently, and they're really investing in S&C and like all this technology. And like my point of view is like, do we not just need to like train the skills?
Right.
And that's what Eddie Jones tells everyone. Forget, right? We've got enough athletes in this country. We've got to train the skills and get the brains working.
The decision making and the automatically doing the skill, because they call it muscle memory or whatever it is, but decision. I remember talking to some youth coach, American youth coach, and he said he started a youth program. All he did was he made up a sign in a housing development near a field, and he just said, rugby sign-ups Saturday at 10 a.m. And people showed up. There's like, oh, I guess we're doing rugby sign-ups now. I mean, in a way, sometimes, you think you have to do a whole big thing. You don't really have to do it. And youth rugby is fun, because really all you have to do is go, run that way. No, run that way. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, if nothing else, it just gets a lot of energy out of the kids, right?
I know, and parents love that.
Yeah, it distracts them for a couple of hours,
and remember,
then happy days.
Parents are terrified of their kids playing football.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And so, if you can give them something different, and it's like, oh well, the soccer clubs, there's political issues with that, and then you show up in rugby. It's like, this is all refreshing to them.
Now have you seen that all this concussion stuff has turned to soccer about heading the ball?
Yeah.
Where does this end? Like,
okay. If I were to take a moderately hard, moderately heavy thing and fire it at your head 45 miles an hour, you duck. But in soccer, you're like, oh, all right, go hit it. I don't know. I mean, it's...
I remember getting smashed in the face when I was at school, and I was really young, by a football, and my face was like squash, and I just crying for about 2 hours. So it hurts. Yeah.
It is not fun. I had a friend in school who never headed the ball because he was afraid. Jeremy Swift, a great guy, and then one day he decided in the playground he was going to head the ball. He missed the ball and hit a concrete pillar with his head.
He headed a concrete pillar.
Yeah, it's like he's going to do it. He's going to do it. Missed. Concrete pillar.
That was it.
And that was the lesson.
He never played football again.
Don't head the ball anymore.
The other thing that happened on the international stage this week was Rugby League World Cup final. That was 6-0 to Australia. I mean, a great game. I haven't got time to get into it now. You could spend a whole podcast talking about it. But if you haven't seen it, FloRugby.com.
Defensive.
Check it out. It was a masterclass from both sides. So it's a shame that that's done now.
Yeah.
But onwards to the Six Nations, next big thing, and the ARC and all the other stuff that happens in the new year.
Yeah, I'm excited about the ARC, and I think
Is it coming to Texas?
I'm not allowed to say, but no. It's not coming to Texas. It's probably going to be in California. I know the first game is going to be in California.
They're doing the Super Rugby thing, right?
They've got a Super Rugby game at the same time. But 3 games for the USA at home. I think that'll be great and good for them. Again, starting with Argentina 15. So I like that tournament. I think it's really good for the USA to win something.
So this means that we need a trip to California.
I think that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, I think so.
Don't love the StubHub Center as a press place, but I think for fans it's fine and everything. But
I could do a New Year's trip to California.
Yeah.
You want to go to California, Mike?
Let's go to California. Road trip.
Road trip?
Road trip.
You can drive, right? No. We'll get there in about like 2.5 hours.
I'm not road tripping there.
Why not? What's wrong with that?
I've been in a car with him to Houston. I'm not going any further than that.
All right. And you were in a car with him
what's
going to
what's wrong with that?
I know. That was long enough. I did bring some alligator jerky though. That was pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. Actually, Mason was talking about that on the show last week.
Yeah.
About how you got to prepare, when you're on the road. Alligator
jerky is the way to go.
Heard it here first. All right. Well, the only thing we haven't talked about is college, but a couple of things on that very quickly. We went to Baylor, Oklahoma. We talked about that briefly. Yeah. Good game. Red River's still a fascinating place to check out some rugby. D1 AA finals. Winner was
the fall final. Winner was Mary Washington, 11-0. They scored 37 points. They won 37-13. 37 was the lowest point total for them all season.
Wow.
They were just offensively just astounding. Some overseas players, which some people don't like, but you know what? People from overseas are allowed to go to college, so tough. It's a very, very good team, and they've got a good partnership with Leicester and you know, a good organization going there. St. Joe's, who made the final, surprised everybody, certainly surprised me, so congratulations to them. They did a good job.
Nice. So, well, we'll see. Now they have to wait a few months to play.
Now they have to sit around, maybe
So
play
that's
some
another
sevens,
discussions for another day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sit
but
around
yeah,
and play
they
some
have-
sevens
they-
and get ready
right.
for the next. Okay, well, that's. I think we run out of time. So that was
What happened?
short and
What
sharp.
happened?
But we'll be back next week with episode 7.
7. Yeah.
Just before we break up for holidays. So join us then. Thanks
See you
very
later.
much.